Hey there my lovelies, and welcome to my BookTube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is V, and today I'm going to talk about a library book haul. I know I didn't do this in ages, and considering that my channel is called The Sassy Library Fox, I probably should do that more, but then again, all of the books, or almost all of them, at least about 95% of the books I'm reading are actually borrowed from the library, so you get the idea. Anyway, I decided it is autumn and it would be time for another library book haul, and especially since I started to work at my new job in August, and I'm always driving by on my way to work and back from work at my favorite library. So I spent a lot of time there recently, and I borrowed so many books, you have no idea. I decided to introduce 5 of them now and here because I'm really so ready to dive into them, and they all sound great. Some of them are even on my to-be reads from years ago, so I hope to tick off a couple of the books from my to-be reads, but we will see. Okay, so let's make this video very cozy and nice. I got my coffee at the ready, and I have all the books I want to talk about. I wrote down some notes so that I can tell you a little bit of info about the books. So yeah, let's just do this. I'll just take a sip from my coffee, and then I think I will have to put it aside because I have all copies physically here due to them being library books, and I want to hold them into the can. So here goes nothing. The first book I borrowed from my library is Anatomy of a Love Song by Dana Schwartz. I hope I pronounced it right now. And it basically plays in 1817 and follows a young woman named Hazel who wants to become a surgeon. And of course, back in 1817, especially in Edinburgh, where the book plays, women weren't meant to be doctors. So she makes some sort of special deal with her teacher that if she passes the exam, she will be allowed to be a surgeon. And so she kind of gets in contact with one of the, how are they called? Resurrection men. With one of the resurrection men at that time. I don't know if you know about resurrection men, but they usually dug up people's unmarked graves and gave the corpses to scientists to make tests on them. So Jack makes his living from digging up graves and digging out people or corpses of them. Anyway, Jack and Hazel meet due to this, but then there comes a mystery because Jack's friends, who are also, I think we can say grave robbers, suddenly disappear, and more of them are gone and no one knows where they went. So Jack and Hazel decide to investigate their mysterious disappearance and all the unmarked graves. So this sounds like some mystery thriller, but also like a love story. I honestly didn't know that this plays in Edinburgh in 1870, because every time someone talked about this book, they said it's such a lovely love story. I was really, when I read the blurb, I was like, okay, that's entirely different than I thought it would be. So I'm very curious how I will come out of this book, but it sounds pretty interesting and I definitely will pick it up soon. Okay, so much to the first book that's on my to-be read and also in my library book haul. The second book I found in my library and which I want to read is Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malinda Lowe. I hope I said that right. I'm so bad with author names. I'm sorry if I butcher them. Anyway, this book has been on my to-be read for a very long time. I know it's an FF romance, and apparently it mostly plays at the Telegraph Club. It's a club in San Francisco in 1954, and two girls meet in that club and fall in love. They are both very young. I think one of them is 17 and has an immigration background, and her father is actually about to be deported back to China. It plays in Chinatown. And this sounds really interesting, especially, I mean, San Francisco in 1954 is very heavily loaded with history and also queer history. And that San Francisco is, well, it's the city of queer history in America, to say it like that. And I'm so curious about this book. I heard so many great things about it. And well, it's an LGBTQIA+ book, of course. I wanted to read it. But quite honestly, I also read a couple of very great reviews about it and I got curious. So I definitely want to read this, especially with all the historical background. It sounds great and I can't wait to pick it up. And the third book I borrowed from a library and which I want to read is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And this book is about the girl named Liz, and Liz has some sort of financial aid and wants to start at an elite college to play in the orchestra there and to become a doctor later on. But then the financial aid is kind of closed and she falls through it. And well, at her school or at the part of the country where she lives, in the city she lives, they have a lot of homecoming queens and kings, and they're always very celebrated and also get a scholarship. And Liz kind of finds this out and decides that she will win this scholarship and that she will become prom queen and will be able to go that elite college she wants to go. So yeah, she's running for prom queen, but another girl that also recently moved to the school wants to become prom queen as well, and Liz is attracted to her. Apparently Meg and her have some sort of chemistry. So this sounds really interesting, and also like it might be some sort of rivals to lovers, at least not exactly enemies, because I think Meg and Liz already like each other, but yeah, definitely some sort of rivals to lovers. I can't wait to read this. I've heard so many good things about it. It also happens to be on my to-be read list. So far, all of the books I just mentioned are on my to-be read list, so that sounds good. If I manage to read them all and bring them back to the library in time, I will have made some sort of progress with my reading lists. At least I hope I will. Anyway, this is the third book I borrowed from the library in which I want to read. And the fourth book I found and had to borrow, and I immediately wrote my sister a WhatsApp when I picked it up because she loved this one so much. She said, if you read Ellie Hazelwood, you gotta read Love on the Brain. It's the best book by her or written by her. And funnily enough, I recommended Ellie Hazelwood to my sister. I think I told her she should read The Love Hypothesis because I loved The Love Hypothesis, and it's such a tongue twister, isn't it? I can't say this title without my tongue twisting. Anyway, I told her to read that book, and then she kind of went on a binge of all the Ellie Hazelwood books that are out there, and she said this one was the best so far. I mean, Ellie Hazelwood is still writing a lot of books, so yeah. She said this was her favorite, and I decided I would pick it up once I find it in the library, and well, guess what happened? I found it in the library. So I Definitely want to read this one. And as for what it is about, B, a woman in STEM, is offered a job as a neuroengineer at the NASA. And of course she takes the job, but as it happens, her nemesis from grad school, they go way back, her nemesis from grad school, Leah, is working there as well, and he made it pretty clear that they should work in their own places and never mix together. But well, as it happens, she decided to take the job because it's an amazing job, and why should she listen to her nemesis? Anyway, she takes the job, and soon after, some of the things or the utensils in her laboratory disappear, and the staff doesn't take her seriously, but interestingly, Levi backs her up, and Levi is having her back. And well, in typical Ellie Hazelwood style, I think those two will fall in love. I mean, Levi is described as huge, tall, handsome man with piercing eyes. Kind of reminds me of the main love interest in the love hypothesis. But anyway, Ellie Hazelwood seems to have a type. But I don't mind. If the story is really as good as my sister claims it to be, I will be so ready to dive into it and to read about those two falling in love. And yeah, I found this in the library. I immediately picked it up. I wrote my sister a WhatsApp and I'm sure she will be very happy that I'll pick it up soon so that we can rave about it together. Okay, and the last book I borrowed from the library is Carrie, Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I've heard a lot about this book. I gotta say, I already read 2 books by Taylor Jenkins Reid and I loved them both. They were both amazing. One of them was Daisy Jones and the Six, and the other one was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I loved them both. And I'm pretty certain I will love this one as well. It's been on my to-be read for a very long time. I think at least 2 years or so. I don't know when the book was released, but at least 1 year or 2 years it's been on my list. And as for what it is about, it's about Carrie Soto, who is a tennis player, or used to be a tennis player until she retired 7 years ago. And she won all the records and everything you can win in a career. And she also came or broke one of the world records. But then one day she sits at the game and the person that plays, well, let's say her world record isn't standing anymore because that person made a new one. So that kind of causes her ambition to return, and she decides to come back for 1 year and to win that record and to be better again and to hold a new record. So this is really interesting. I don't know a lot about tennis, but I've been told you don't have to know a lot about it. It will still be enjoyable. It's actually interesting because the other book, She Gets the Girl, is about basketball and this is about tennis. So I have 2 books that are about sports in some way, but never mind. I'm curious about both of them. And I'm very curious if Carrie Soto will have a great comeback and if she will be able to make a new record. And I've heard great things about that one. I think one of the most interesting things I read about this book is that Carrie Soto's father is her coach and that they have a very special and amazing relationship, a father-daughter relationship. So I'm very curious how this is going to play out in this book. And I can't wait to dive into this. I think by now I've read a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid books, but I think Malibu Rising is still missing, and probably a couple of other books I still haven't read yet. So it's always a pleasure and always nice to pick up one of her books. Okay, so those are the 5 books I borrowed from the library and which I want to read in the next, I don't know, about 2 to 3 months, I think, because then I will have to return them to the library. So that's always good. It kind of motivates me to read the books before I have to return them. Anyway, so much for my library book haul, which I hope you enjoyed. I don't know if you go to the library and which kind of books you recently borrowed. If you want to share them with me, please write them down in the comments. I always love to get new book recommendations and to hear what you are borrowing from the library. And well, I guess I'm already at the ending of my video and there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, and see you around the next time. Bye!